Trillax Prime gleamed like a jewel suspended in the void, its atmosphere laced with golden light, its orbital platforms hovering in serene order. Below, spires of crystalline architecture pierced skyward, surrounded by emerald flora genetically engineered to remain in eternal bloom. Ellie and Ward stepped off the transport shuttle in silence. To the other cadets, this place was a symbol of unity, prestige, and peace. To Elian, it was sanitized. Too clean, too safe. The ground didn't shift beneath your boots. The air lacked weight. There were no insects buzzing past his ears, no thick, sharp-edged scents of bark, sweat, and soil. He adjusted the strap on his cadet-shoed pack and took in the Academy's entrance. Arched in translucent stone, banners of dozens of Coalition species fluttering above. A towering insectoid cadet bumped past him without a word. Another, with feathers in place of hair, chuckled behind his back. Elian didn't react. He'd heard worse. Much worse. Inside the main atrium, alien voices blended into a murmur of dialects. Elian moved toward the registration terminal, keeping his posture neutral, his pace measured. "Human?" a soft voice asked beside him. He turned. The speaker was tall, blue-skinned, and sleek. One of the Kirill, known for their psionic sensitivity and elegance. She tilted her head with polite curiosity, eyes unblinking. "I am," Elian replied simply. She smiled, as if he confirmed a rumor. "Didn't think your kind joined combat programs. Logistics or medicine, maybe. But this..." She gestured vaguely around the academy. "I go where I'm needed," he said, then stepped forward as his name appeared on the roster screen. Ward, Elian. Earth Soul Accord. Cleared. Tactical and field integration. "Brave," the Kirill muttered, almost to herself. Elian didn't answer. Not because he was offended, but because she wasn't wrong. In the eyes of most Coalition species, humans were clever, adaptable, and emotionally erratic, good for diplomacy, tolerable in engineering. But when it came to survival, warfare, instinct, they didn't stand a chance. At least, that's what they thought. By midday, orientation was in full swing. The lecture hall spanned 3 tiers, filled with cadets of every shape and origin. Elian sat near the back, ignored by most. A few whispered glances in his direction were easy to tune out. Then Commandant Zarek entered. The room fell silent. Zarek was Althene, a broad-shouldered species covered in ridged, obsidian-black plates and ceremonial bone-etched armor. His voice hit the air like the crack of a whip. "Strength," he began, "is not a matter of muscle, nor of numbers. It is the ability to adapt to hostility, to overcome it. That is why you are here." His black eyes swept over the rows of cadets. When they paused on Elian, the Commandant's mouth curled slightly, more amusement than menace. "Some species here," he said slowly, "have no business on a battlefield, but we are a progressive institution. We allow all to prove themselves, or fail." A few chuckles, none from Elian. He leaned back in his seat, arms folded. Let them laugh. Let Zarek posture. The field would prove everything. Later that afternoon, the cadets filed into the training yard, an enormous open-air space segmented by species type, gravity acclimation zones, and discipline markers. Elian was assigned to a basic simulation range. An obstacle course blinked to life. Rough terrain, narrow beams, sharp angles, and drop zones padded with pressure sensors. Beside him, 2 bulky Gothic cadets sneered at the setup. "Humans don't have claws," one said, flexing his 3-fingered talons. "Or a carapace. He'll break his limbs halfway through." "I'd give him 5 seconds," the other replied. They started before him, leaping, scrambling, smashing through the course. Elian waited, breathed in, then started moving. No flare, no wasted motion. He slid under the swinging beams, vaulted cleanly, ducked and twisted with fluidity that didn't match his species' reputation. His score wasn't the fastest, but it was precise. No penalties, no resets. When he landed at the finish line, the Grothics were still laughing until they saw his completion time, just behind theirs, without a single error. "Got lucky," one of them muttered. Elian just gave a thin smile and walked off. That evening, as the cadets ate in the mess hall, the tone had changed. Not enough to matter, but enough to notice. Fewer jokes. More glances. One even moved aside when Elian passed. He chose a corner table. The food was edible. Too processed. Too bland. He missed the tang of root-grilled meat and the sharp spice of river herbs. Food that made your blood run hotter. As he finished his meal, a datapad slid onto his table. Commandant Zarek stood above him. "You did well today, Cadet Ward." Elian looked up. "Thank you, sir." The Commandant didn't move. "You've drawn attention. We'll see how long your efficiency lasts when the simulations end and something real begins." Elian held his gaze, looking forward to it. Zarek's eyes narrowed. Just a fraction. Earth must breed confidence. "Earth breeds survivors," Elian replied. Zarek said nothing. After a moment, he turned and walked away. Elian tapped the datapad. A message glowed on the screen. "Survival trial, volunteer list pending. Cadet Ward, Elian, pre-approved. Destination, Simulation Moon Theta 7. Conditions, Class 8 environment. Team, assigned." He stared at it for a few seconds, then locked the pad and leaned back. Theta 7. Hostile biosphere. Semi-randomized hazards. Moderate predator density. He remembered forests that screamed when the wind tore through the canopy. Rivers that carried toxins the color of blood. Feral eyes watching from the dark. They thought Theta 7 was dangerous. They'd never seen Earth. Not really. The lecture chamber's curved walls pulsed faintly with embedded hololight as cadets filed into their assigned seats. Elian took position near the end of the row, unnoticed by most, just as he preferred. The Coalition insignia shimmered above the dais. A soft hum announced Commandant Zarek's arrival. He strode in, armored boots echoing across polished obsidian tile, hands clasped behind his back. The room fell silent. "Elites do not emerge from privilege," Zarek began, voice like gravel cracking ice. "They are forged in adversity. The Coalition faces threats not in simulations, but in wilderness, in chaos, in conditions that test the marrow of your species." His gaze swept the hall like a hunting scan. "We will begin the survival proving." A few cadets straightened. Others shifted uneasily. The proving was a prestigious field test, grueling, often optional, and typically reserved for fourth-year squads. A cadet 2 rows down raised a hand. "Sir, this isn't on the current semester schedule." Zarek's jaw flexed. "The syllabus is a guideline. I am not." He tapped a control node. The room dimmed as a rotating moon projection shimmered into view. Harsh terrain, jagged ridges, forests twisted in unnatural shapes. "Simulation Moon Theta 7, Zarek said. "Category, Class 8 hostile environment. Temperate chaos zone. Full spectrum survival. AI monitored." Low murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zarek continued. "You will be grouped into interdisciplinary squads. You will survive 72 hours. No weapons. No AI guidance. No evac unless fatally injured. This is not a drill. This is your truth." A name lit up on the wall screen. Team 3, lead, Cadet Zarv Cyrokian. Team members, Tora Krylek, Lux Avini, Ward Human. Elian didn't blink. He'd expected this. Across the room, a wide-shouldered reptilian cadet snorted. Zarv, tall, green-scaled, and always standing like he was bracing for a fight. Tora, a thin, sharp-jointed insectoid, hissed in disgust. Lux, a feathered humanoid with sharp silver eyes, tilted his head toward Elian. "Bad draw, human." Lux muttered as they all stood. "Hope you don't die too fast." The staging hangar was colder than the rest of the academy. Gray, metallic, clinical. Each team stood on separate launch pads, preparing for drop. Zarv eyed Elian's pack. "That's all you brought?" "Everything I need," Elian replied. "No tactical visor?" Tora asked, antennae twitching. "No exoskin shock suit environmental lens?" "I know how to use what's there," Elian said, checking his rope coil. "Not just what I bring." Zarv grunted. "We'll see." The shuttle doors opened. Wind rushed in, sour and electric. Their boots hit dirt. Hard. Theta Seven greeted them with ash-colored soil, crooked trees, and a sharp metallic taste in the air. Mist rolled low across the ground, hiding the shapes of rock, root, and predator alike. The sky pulsed purple through sickly green clouds. Zarv tapped his holocomp, signals jammed. Expected, Elian said, already moving to higher ground. This zone messes with directional calibration. Stick to terrain orientation. Find a vantage. You're not lead, Tora snapped. Do you want to be alive in an hour? Elian asked, voice flat. Zarv gave a grudging nod. Let him go. We'll follow until he gets us lost. They climbed a steep rise of shale and fractured crystal. Elian scanned the distance. Westward, a dry riverbed. Southeast, a cave system shadowed by thorn trees. Shelter before sundown, he said. That ridgeline, windbreak, defensible elevation. He moved first. The others hesitated, then followed. 2 hours later, Tora screamed. A creeping vine had latched to her calf. Its barbed tendrils were burrowing into her exoskin, pumping in slow pulses of amber fluid. Elian! Lux shouted. Don't move, Elian ordered, already at her side. He pulled a fong-shaped mineral shard from his boot, sliced above the puncture, and pressed 2 moss-like pads to the wound. Tora gasped. You're improvising? That vine injects hemoneurotoxin. Circulates in 6 minutes. This plant draws out venom through capillary absorption. You'll be light-headed but alive. Zarv stared at him. How the void do you know that? Elian glanced at the vine. We got worse on Earth. Vines that strangled deer. One time, I watched one pull a wild boar into the canopy. You made that up, Tora muttered, dazed. Didn't have to. Night felt like a trap. The wind howled through cracked bark and alien thorns. The squad huddled near a stone outcropping, flames flickering from a fire Elian coaxed from root fibers and flint. Lux sat close to the heat, feathers shivering. The commandant thinks you'll fail. That we all will. Elian fed the fire. That's why he sent me with you. Not just to test me, but to make sure no one helps. Zarv leaned forward. You're not what they said. The records, they said humans were diplomatic. Pacifists, mostly unarmed. Unarmed doesn't mean helpless, Elian said. Lux stared. What kind of place is Earth, really? Elian didn't answer right away. He watched the ember spiral. Earth trains you to survive before you learn to speak. The world tests your blood before it lets you grow. Tora shivered, though the venom had passed. Zarv broke the silence. What are you, Ward? Elian met his gaze. Prepared. By morning, the wind on Theta 7 had changed. It no longer screamed. It whispered. Low, constant, and unnerving. Elian crouched beside a moss-covered rock, brushing his fingers across the soil. Damp, slightly acidic. Tracks. 4-clawed, 2 meters long, dragging tail. Not fresh. Still close. He made a silent note. Behind him, Zarv stomped loudly over uneven ground, his heavy reptilian boots cracking brittle stones with every step. Tora followed, her posture stiff, antennae alert. Lux moved quietly, but his talons clicked softly every few strides. You'll want to walk lighter, Elian said without turning. You're making enough noise to attract scavengers. We're not your recruits, Tora snapped. No, Elian replied. If you were, we'd be quieter. And we wouldn't still be out in the open. He stood, slinging his pack over one shoulder. The ridge they'd use as a shelter the night before it kept them safe, for now. But Theta 7 didn't play by the same rules every day. The ecosystem shifted based on variables Elian was still mapping. Cloud movement, atmospheric pulse readings, sent trails in the wind. Lux squinted ahead. What are we looking for? High ground near water, Elian said. Flow means food, shelter, and visibility. And anything that drinks bleeds. Zarv huffed. That fire trick of yours last night got lucky. We'll need real protection if this place turns. Elian pointed to a distant outcropping covered in hanging moss and mineral crystals. There, that's where we're going. It took most of the day to reach the shelf. The terrain fought them every step. Thorn vines lash around roots. Ground insects the size of fists burrowed into their boots, biting anything exposed. The light from Theta 7's pale sun barely penetrated the constant fog canopy, casting everything in shades of gray and violet. When they arrived, Elian scanned the cliff face. "Here," he said, kneeling. He peeled back moss and uncovered a shallow cave opening, hidden and dry, just large enough for them to rest in shifts. "You knew this was here?" Lux asked, stunned. "I figured the moss was hiding something," Elian answered. "Back home, that pattern grows near volcanic vents. Kept warm in winter. You live near volcanic vents?" Tora asked. Elian didn't respond. While the others rested, Elian moved along the ridge. He set tripwire threads from vine fiber anchored by sharp rocks. Not to catch, to warn. Something was coming. He felt it, not instinct. Pattern recognition. The ecosystem had gone quiet, too quiet. No buzz, no distant screeches. The wind had stopped. He returned to the cave. Zar was at the entrance, sharpening a jagged crystal into a blade. He glanced at Elian. "I saw the way you move." "And?" Elian asked. "You don't move like prey." Elian sat beside him. "I'm not." It came after nightfall. A low, guttural snarl rolled through the trees. The fire dimmed unnaturally, as if the beast carried coal with it. The ground trembled just a little. Elian rose immediately. "Up, all of you." Tora blinked. "What is?" "Predator. Apex class. Probably the one circling us since yesterday." Lux grabbed his stone blade. "We hide." "No," Elian said. "It's tracking warmth and sound. We need to scatter and confuse its senses." Zar frowned. "We split." "Only for a minute. I'll draw it." "You what?" Tora's voice rose. "I've seen things like this before," Elian said calmly. "They don't expect prey to fight back. I'm not prey." Before they could argue, he was gone, slipping through the mist like he belonged to it. Outside, the creature emerged. 8 feet tall, 6 legs, a sleek black shell that shimmered with light-distorting pigments. No eyes, just a glowing slit beneath a jagged crown of bone. It smelled of ozone and iron. It sniffed the air, then turned. Elian was standing in the clearing, just beyond the ridge, unmoving. He held no weapon. The beast charged. Elian waited just long enough. Then he pivoted left, rolled under a swing of the creature's claw, and slammed a sharpened mineral spike into the joint of its front leg. The beast roared, stumbling. Elian moved again, driving his elbow into its mandible with the weight of his body behind it. He didn't fight like the others. Not with style, not with finesse. He fought like survival had been carved into his bones since birth. The others arrived seconds later, just in time to see the thing writhing the dirt, one leg shattered, blood smoking from its wound. Elian stood above it, panting once, not trembling. Zar froze. "What the hell kind of cadet are you?" Elian didn't look back. "A prepared one." The predator hissed weakly, and Elian raised a stone, ending it with precision. Lux stepped closer, voice quiet. "You didn't even flinch. That thing that would have gutted any of us." "It tried," Elian replied, "but it's just a beast. It bleeds like everything else." Tora looked at the creature's body. This was bred for the simulation, engineered apex. "It's based on real species," Elian said, "but it's not as bad as Earth's shadow mantises. Those come in packs." Zarv stared. "You're lying." Elian finally turned to face them. His eyes weren't angry, just tired. "Back home, the wilderness doesn't let you grow soft. We don't train for war. We train to live. The rest follows." Lux swallowed hard. "What is Earth?" Elian looked into the forest, already setting new traps. "It's where weak things go extinct." Back at the academy, in a room lit only by hollow screens, Commandant Zarek watched the playback again. Paused. Replayed. Paused. Elian Ward, unarmored, unarmed, outmaneuvering an engineered predator meant to test elite squads. The AI flagged the footage. Anomaly detected. Subject behavior. Outside normal human parameters. Possible class. 12 survival indicators. Zarek leaned back slowly, eyes unreadable. Perhaps the humans hadn't lied about their planet. They simply hadn't explained it. And now he understood why. The debrief chamber on Station Aegis. 9 was silent, save for the low hum of environmental systems. Seated at the center of a wide, circular table, Elian Ward waited, calm, composed, but watching everything. Across from him sat 5 high-ranking observers. A Zalthine commandant, a Calvorian field strategist, 2 human liaisons, and a Terran AI presence housed in a sleek, black drone that hovered silently above the table, its single lens shifting between speakers. The holoscreens behind them cycled through footage of Elian's mission on Theta 7. Each scene, fire building, field dressing injuries, the ambush against the apex predator, looped in eerie silence. Zarek, the Zalthine commandant, finally spoke. You were not instructed to engage the predator alone. Elian leaned forward, voice quiet but steady. It wasn't engagement. It was survival. You endangered the mission. I ended the threat. Zarek's nostrils flared slightly, an involuntary sign of irritation. There were protocols. Protocols designed by people who've never been stalled for hours by a creature that can taste adrenaline in the wind. The Calvorian strategist clicked, his claws against the table. And you say this is common where you're from? Elian looked him dead in the eye. Common enough to learn how to kill them before puberty. A pause followed. The room shifted. The humans exchanged glances. The AI drone hovered lower. Your team reports claim you identified multiple ecological threats faster than our sensors, based on scent, wind behavior, and the AI buzzed softly, ground vibrations. Elian nodded once. Experience. Instinct. Where I'm from, you listen or die. Zarek gestured to the screen behind him, pausing on the predator's corpse. You shattered the frontal joint with improvised weaponry. You ruptured its gill chamber with a mineral shard, then burned its remains. Why? Because I didn't know if its blood was caustic, or if others would come for body. Earth predators sometimes tracked their wounded kin to finish what they started. The Calvorian leaned in, voice low. You make it sound like your planet is worse than anything in our simulations. It is, Elian said, without pride or dramatics. But you wouldn't believe it if I told you. The AI responded before anyone else could. Try us. They gave him the floor. He stood, not like someone trying to impress, more like someone fulfilling an unpleasant obligation. Elian Ward, human, born in the Tycho Rift Exclusion Zone, Earth. Zarek's eyes narrowed. That zone was declared unfit for habitation during the seismic upheaval. Yeah, we stayed anyway. My family didn't have the luxury of leaving. No clean water, no functioning grid, just ash winds, acid rain, and predators that moved through the dust like ghosts. The screen behind him shifted again, Elian's childhood file. Fragmented, partially redacted. The word survived Event Zero Delta blinked in yellow. I wasn't trained by a military academy, Elian continued. I was trained by watching my neighbors vanish during storm nights, by learning which fungus glows before it releases spores that paralyze your lungs, by tracking ash wolves through ruined sewer tunnels because we had no food left. He turned slightly, addressing all 5 observers at once. You send cadets into simulations where the worst thing that happens is death. Earth teaches you to survive things that want you to live, so they can eat you slower. A silence fell. Even Zarek, stubborn in his skepticism, said nothing. Lux, who'd been granted special permission to witness the debrief, finally stepped forward. I watched him fight that creature, he said quietly. He moved like he'd done it before, like it wasn't even a surprise. Elian shook his head. It wasn't. Later, in the observation lounge, the team sat in an uneasy quiet. Tora kept turning her mug of thermal broth without sipping. Zarv stood near the viewport, arms crossed. So it's true, Tora muttered. Your planet really is a death world. Elian shrugged. The term's relative. It's home. Lux frowned. But if Earth is that dangerous, why haven't the rest of the Coalition seen this before? Why wasn't it in your species' first contact files? Zarv turned. Because we never asked. No one feared us, Elian said simply. We were shorter, slower, softer-skinned. You mistook comfort for weakness. And you let us, Tora said, half accusing, half impressed. Wouldn't you? Elian raised an eyebrow. If everyone thinks you're fragile, they underestimate you. That's a powerful advantage. Back in the command hall, Zarek and the strategist walked beside each other, deep in discussion. We underestimated the humans, the Calvorian admitted. Their official data was sanitized. Or misleading by design, Zarek muttered. We focus on their diplomacy, their tech, but not their resilience. The strategist nodded. They don't just survive war. They emerge from war. Civil, environmental, biological. And they adapt. Zarek stopped walking. That boy isn't a soldier. No, the Calvorian said. He's worse. Zarek looked puzzled. Worse. He's proof. Of what? The strategist tapped his claw against a holopad, playing back Elian's words. Earth doesn't train for war, we train to live. Hours later, Elian stood alone on the edge of the station's artificial habitat dome. Beyond the glass, stars shimmered. He watched them quietly, face calm. The AI drone hovered beside him. Why did you volunteer for this mission? It asked. Elian didn't answer right away. I wanted them to see. See what? He turned, voice low. That Earth didn't make monsters. It made survivors. And maybe, just maybe, that's worse. The war game was never meant to be real. It was designed as a routine exercise, a ceremonial simulation between allied species, a test of cooperation, observation, and composure. No weapons, only tactics. No casualties, only scored points. But as Elian Ward stood at the edge of the mock battlefield, a ruined cityscape built into Station Aegis 9's internal combat dome, he knew something had changed. They altered the parameters. Lux said beside him, voice low, added a rogue faction, unknown behavior profiles. Let me guess, Elian replied, to see what I do. Tora checked her scanner. They want to see if you're a threat, or just a wild story in uniform. They want proof, Zarv added, the kind you can't redact. Elian exhaled slowly, cracking the tension in his shoulders. Then let's show them what a Deathworld native actually does. Across the dome, observers watched from a suspended control deck, eyes fixed on the feed. Zarek, arms behind his back, leaned forward. Unleash the rogue AI drones, he ordered. Target all cadets equally. The Calvorian beside him hesitated. Even the human? Especially the human. Elian was already moving before the first shots rang out. The air shimmered as plasma blasts rained down. Training drones, now turned hostile, swept low over the shattered buildings, hunting cadets with brutal precision. Panic erupted. Teams scattered. But Elian didn't run. He crouched low, one hand on the cracked ferrocrete, feeling for vibrations. His eyes darted between shadows, tracking heat vents, movement, wind direction. It was a Deathworld pattern, and he recognized it instantly. Zarv, smoke wall, east. Tora, take high ground, corner 3. Lux, strip the ammo rack and build decoys. Now! They didn't question him. They just moved. Within minutes, what began as a scattered retreat turned into a coordinated counteroffensive. Elian reprogrammed a friendly recon drone mid-combat, turning its scan beacon into a blinding flashbang. He led the rogue AIs into choke points, collapsing structures behind them with precision explosives crafted from salvaged training modules. Ward's adapting faster than our algorithms can predict, the AI analyst noted to the observers. His decisions are nonlinear. Environmental use is off the charts. Zarek stared, silent. One of the rogue drones attempted a flank. Elian turned sharply, flung a broken lens shard, an improvised mirror, off a metallic surface. The redirected beam overloaded the drone's optics, sending it crashing. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just kept moving. 10 minutes later, all enemy drones were disabled. The battlefield was scorched, cratered, smoldering. And yet, no cadet was down. Elian stood in the center of it all, breathing hard, soaked in sweat and grime. Then, quietly, applause echoed from the comms channel. "Bravo, Cadet Ward." Zarek's voice cut through. Simulation complete. The debrief chamber was quieter than before. Zarek faced Elian, no longer dismissive. The rest of the observers leaned forward, the weight of understanding finally settling. "You used the terrain, rewrote code on the fly, coordinated 3 species, and eliminated superior targets without casualties," the Calvorian said, tone impressed. "And you did it with no formal war training." Elian sat, posture calm. "I need training. I had Earth." Zarek nodded once, then spoke without ceremony. "We owe you an apology." Elian raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For underestimating what you are." Lux later, caught with Elian near the Habitat Dome. "You knew they were testing you, didn't you?" Elian nodded. "They had to. There's fear now. Quiet, but growing." "Because you survived?" "No," Elian said. "Because I made others survive." Zarb joined them, arms crossed. "What happens when the galaxy realizes that Earth doesn't need to conquer? It only needs to exist long enough for its people to adapt. They'll either invite us in," Elian replied, "or try to contain us. And if they try..." Elian turned to them both, eyes steady. "Then they'll learn the same lesson that Predator did on Theta 7. The Coalition didn't issue a statement, but word spread fast. Within weeks, Earth's classification shifted from modern developed to red zone, hostile adaptive. Not because humans pose a direct threat, but because they redefine survivability. Diplomats approach them differently now, warier, with respect edged in caution. Cadets from other species began requesting joint training exercises with humans. Earth's wild zones became case studies. Elian's name circulated in elite academies as the first proof. But Elian didn't return to Earth. He remained with the team, training, learning, watching, because he understood what the others still didn't. This wasn't the beginning of fear. It was the beginning of preparation. One quiet evening, Tora found him alone, watching simulated storms crash across a holographic savanna. "You think the galaxy's ready for Earth?" she asked. "No," he said, "but they will be." "Because of you?" He shook his head. "Because there are billions like me.